We need people to understand that we're not going to advance as a society. We're not going to get the Green New Deal. We're not actually going to, I don't know, save the fucking planet. When people like this are in power. So recently, the one of the biggest kind of pipeline shutdowns happened. It was because of a ransomware attack by hackers. Obviously it's kind of a developing story. I think it led to a gas shortage on the East Coast, and I think it's starting to come back online now. But there's a lot of underlying themes in this article that I'm about to show y'all that I think people aren't talking about as much as they should. So let me pull this up, and we'll just go through this article quickly. So it says ransomware attack shuts down massive East Coast gas line pipeline. Now, this is in Forbes, written by Joe Walsh. And there's an interesting surprise towards the end of this story that I didn't expect to come upon, but it's just telling, and I think it illuminates more of what's wrong, right? The very essential thing that's completely wrong with this country and our all of our systems, but particularly our political system. So the Colonial pipeline, which carries almost half of the East Coast's gasoline, shuttered its network overnight due to a ransomware attack. I thought we had anti-monopoly laws. How is it that one pipeline company carries almost half of the East Coast's gasoline, like one company? But that's not a monopoly. One singular company provides all the gas, like almost half the gas for the East Coast. And that's not a monopoly. Of course it's a monopoly. We live in a monopoly state. They don't enforce antitrust laws, and they allow. Well, okay, let me get more into it, and I think we'll see why it's one company that owns it. Shuttered its network overnight due to a ransomware attack, the company said in a statement, in the latest instance of hacking disrupting a U.S. company's operations. Okay, let's read these key facts. The cyber attack impacted Colonial Pipeline's IT systems late Friday, and the company says it tried to minimize the damage by proactively shutting down its over 5,000 miles of pipelines, Jesus Christ, which carry gasoline, jet fuel, and kerosene from Texas to New York area. The company confirmed Saturday afternoon that this incident involves ransomware, a tactic in which hackers threaten to damage a target in some way unless payment is made, which I think they did, actually. I think they ended up paying them $5 million as a ransom, which to this pipeline is nothing. To this company that supplies half of the East Coast gasoline, $5 million, that's literally nothing. I would have probably milked them for all they were worth, like 100 million, at least 200 million. They probably would have paid $1 billion. Like that's what these banks and these large companies do. Like that's the cost of business, right? They get these fines for these fines for fraud, or these fines for just malevolence, and they pay like $1 billion fine, but to a $1 trillion bank, like that's literally the cost of business. It's nothing. So they only ended up paying like $5 million of the ransom. Like I said, that's like not that much to that company at all. It's a drop in the bucket. This company has called law enforcement, hired a private cybersecurity, still working to restore its service. Okay, crucial quote. At this time, our primary focus is a safe and efficient restoration of our service and efforts, blah, blah, blah. 100 million gallons. That's how much refined fuel Colonial Pipeline says it moves per day, accounting for 45% of all fuel used on the East Coast. When you hear numbers like that, it's like not surprising that we're, spiraling into this completely unlivable planet. Like 100 million gallons a day. And the fact, and I say this, I've said this kind of to people close to me, but I feel like as humans, we've missed our evolutionary step, right? Like, of course, it would have been nice to always have renewable energies, but they discovered and used oil, right? And then it spurred another industrial revolution, and then you have this technological revolution, and then we get to the point where we have the ability to make and use renewable energy and not destroy our planet, but we're not just going all out investing everything we can into that. And why aren't we doing that? Oh, I think we'll find out pretty soon here why we're not doing that very thing that obviously, as humans, when we have the technology to move to a completely renewable energy source, if we actually invested in it, invest in the technology, and invested in the human capital here to, have the people to produce some of those new technologies that we need to make it efficient. Instead of doing that, what do? We just keep giving money to fossil fuel companies. And I wonder why. I think we'll find out right here. Tangent. This isn't a tangent. This is like the main fucking story. A private company, Colonial Pipeline's largest owner at 28.1% as of last year, is Koch Capital Investments, which is controlled by the powerful Koch family. That's why Colonial Pipeline, which is owned by Koch Investments, Charles Koch, the Koch family, who essentially owns the Republican Party from the state and local level all the way up to the federal level. The reason we're not actually pushing for completely renewable energy is because the Koch family, which funds all these politicians in the Republican Party, which are a super far right-wing party at this point, and then the Democrats funded by other, maybe not the Koch family, but other, the fossil fuel industry. These industries are funded by the same corrupt corporate industries as well. They follow right along with the Republicans going further right and further right and further right. Right. That's why we have the situation that we're in this country. That's why you can't what makes sense about formulating a system around one powerful family who's the majority owner of a pipeline which services half of the East Coast, and then if something happens to them, then we have an energy shortage because we're putting all our eggs in that one basket, and that one basket is owned by Charles Koch and Koch Industries. Like, that's insane. Like, and that's the little nugget that was hidden that this writer will say is a tangent, but to me it's the central issue and central part of this story, is that this pipeline is owned by the Koch family, and it gets worse. So we're gonna skip that, but look at this surprising fact. Here we go. In 2016, part of Colonial Pipeline's network shut down for several weeks due to a leak and explosion in Alabama, causing gasoline supply shortages and price spikes in the South. The company paid more than $3 million in fines to the state of Alabama. Once again, like I just talked about, what is $3 million to the Koch family, which is a $100 billion family? What is $3 million in fines? So they get to operate and own completely half of the East Coast supply, energy supply, oil supply, right? They also get to go out and buy the politicians to ensure that they have favorable legislation. And then when they poison waterways with their pipelines that have explosions and are not properly maintained and cared for, which causes these leaks, which like thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not millions of barrels leak into the ground and into waterways, they have to pay a $3 million fine. Like, we don't understand scale, right? I think sometimes we don't understand scale because a $3 million sounds like a lot to a lot of people, because a lot of people work for minimum wage, $7.25, and a lot of other people make under, probably majority, 90% of the population makes under $100,000, $150,000. So we don't understand the scale of $3 million, which is a drop in the fucking bucket to someone like the Koch family and Colonial Pipeline, whatever the company that owns that. It's a drop in the bucket. It's the cost of business. It's not actually going to prevent them from doing anything in the future, from not, they'll probably save money by not fixing and keeping up their pipelines and keeping them maintained. They'll probably say, they'll make a calculation, because under capitalism, you say, what is going to cost me the least? What's going to cost me the least? And if it's a $3 million fine after we can operate these things for decades, moving 100 million gallons a day, and how much money do you think that is a day? If they're moving 100 million gallons, how much money do you think they're making a day? $3 million is probably a drop in the bucket of what they're making a day, and that's their fine for leaking oil into people's people's drinking water, clean drinking water. Things like DAPL, like, that's the fine they get, when you could potentially have some type of long-term health effects from that, right? It's ruining the environment around you. And that's a huge cost to you and your family and your personal life. But to them, it's $3 million, which is nothing. I mean, it's just wild to me that I think sometimes we don't understand scale in these situations and how this is just a slap on the wrist. It's not even a slap on the wrist. It's like a mosquito biting you. You don't even notice it. They don't even notice that fine, you know? And so that's why we have issues in this country. That's why we have major issues in this country because one, a lot of people probably don't even know this is happening. A lot of people probably don't even know this company is owned by Koch investments. And a lot of people don't even understand how this one family, we're talking about we have a democracy, right? This one family can shell out a bunch of money, right? Have a monopoly, make billions of dollars, and then buy politicians for a fraction of that, for a fraction of the billions that they have, they can buy politicians, right? Because if you're giving a single politician or even say the entire Republican Party, if they're spending $100 million on buying the Republican Party, that's worth the cost of business. Come on, we're making billions of dollars every year, tens of billions. That's the cost of doing business. It's nothing. Once again, a problem with scale. When you have these people that have billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, there's always going to be a problem with scale because they can buy out politicians for a tiny fraction of that and then make the entire society much worse off. Much worse off, a huge cost to society. So, once again, it's almost like we're socializing the losses and you privatize the gains. Like that's the situation here in America. And we people need to wake up and start to understand this more, start to understand the nuances of the situation we're in here in America. Because with people like Charles Koch around, right? People like the fossil fuel industry that'll buy the Democratic Party, where in the DNC they'll when Obama first came in, he I think he said no corporate money, and now they're back to taking corporate money again, and especially fossil fuel money and oil money. We need people to understand that we're not going to advance as a society. We're not going to get the Green New Deal. We're not actually going to, I don't know, save the fucking planet. When people like this are in power, and even if they're 80, 85 years old, about to die, they don't care. They will still pay tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to influence politics and ensure that even after they're dead, all of the rest of us are screwed because we're still extracting millions of oil every single day from the ground, fracking, like putting methane in the air, all this just horrible shit. All this just horrible shit is happening because there's a few people at the top making these decisions and making a lot of money, who it doesn't matter if they're 70, 80, 90, like these politicians, they're super old. They don't care. They will want to die in power. It's like a drug to them, right? So someone like Joe Biden, he doesn't want anyone else to use drugs. He doesn't want people, now, black people who's were, had a propensity over other races to use menthol cigarettes. Now he doesn't want you to use those drugs. He doesn't want you to get high off those drugs, but he gets high off the drug of power. He gets high off that drug. So does Dianne Feinstein, who's 85 years old, still legislating, telling kids that she knows what's best and she knows how things work, and the fact that they want a livable society, an earth that they can actually survive on. That's nothing. Just give them the stiff arm and keep it pushing, because she knows how to get things done, even though she's been in Congress for decades and hasn't got anything done to help the American people. So, like I said, we need more of a cultural awakening to these things. And this story really stood out to me for that very reason, that someone like Charles Koch is at the center of why, there's a gas shortage on the East Coast. And the fact that these tiny little $3 million penalties, $5 million ransom, which is literally nothing to them, nothing. Nobody's ever earned $1 billion. Yeah, it's I think, what is it, like $1 million is like 3 days or something like that, and a billion, like a million, if you have it in a million seconds, is like 10 days. A billion seconds is 31 years. Once again, a problem with scale. We don't understand these numbers because a lot of times they're so huge, so large, that like we can't really fathom that. We can't conceptualize it. And this is how much money that these people have. And not only are they going to have that money, they're going to ensure that they can get more and more and more by going out and buying politicians. for a fraction of their net worth, a fraction. They're bought off that easily. Sometimes it just takes hundreds of thousands of dollars for certain politicians. Sometimes 50,000, 10,000. It doesn't take much to buy off these politicians. It does not take much. Why? Because the politicians want power. They want power. They want to be the next Nancy Pelosi, right? These people come in, and even you see with the progressives in Congress, they come in high-minded, seemingly ready to fight. 2 years later, I just saw a story that, AOC and Pete Buttigieg are chopping it up, right? Like AOC's calling Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear. Like they're all giving, Pramila Jayapal, they're all giving Biden an A+. Like it's just freaking sickening, man. It's freaking sickening. And that's what politicians do. Thank y'all for being here. Everyone have a great weekend. Stay safe. Free Palestine. Make sure we're standing up in solidarity with the Palestinians and doing what we can on that front. So everyone, thank you so much for joining the show, and we'll see y'all soon.